Hey man, thank you guys for coming out here and hanging out with us. My name's Billy Lawson, and I'm a guide here on Lake Fork. I do social media content. You're a Lake Fork guide. I know some of you guys, like I fished with Jason years ago, man. So I've known a couple of you guys for a while, but I know Neil and just met his brother, but I've known Neil. And we're going to do a seminar for you guys tonight. We do these kind of every couple of weeks here at Lake Fork Marine. We usually are in the tackle store in the upstairs room there. But with it being Swimbait week, the Swimbait deal going on, what's called the gathering? The gathering, the Swimbait gathering. So with that being said, I reached out to my good buddy Heath Taylor. Now, he's a game warden, and he kind of slides under the radar because like he doesn't really want his business to get too big because he can't keep up with it. But he also owns a company called Smashtech Custom Bait. And Heath is a big time swimbait guy. He's been obsessed with swimbaits for a long time. He's one of y'all. I'm a part-time one of y'all because I got a guide. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we can't be having them one by days. Like, we gotta go catch some fish. And some people that are customers just can't handle swimbait fishing, right? That's not for everybody. But Heath, on the other hand, doesn't guide. And so when he goes fishing, I've been with him. When I show up to go fishing with him, we might be going to a pond, and this dude will have like 9 swimbaits on the deck of his boat. He's probably got more time behind the wheel of a swimbait than anybody I know. And he certainly has more knowledge with him making them by hand, designing them by hand, from hard baits to soft baits and everything else when it comes to swimbaits. How many different swimbaits would you say you've designed?
I don't know, 15, 20, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So he's hand designed himself several swimbaits. And guys just got an immense amount of knowledge. So he's going to help us tonight. I'm going to give you guys kind of a quick rundown on equipment. And then I'm going to let Heath take over when it comes to talking baits. I know we've been together enough. I know we're kind of the same on equipment. We basically fish our stuff the same way. So, you know, I've got 2 different swimbait rods that I've designed that I use. And the main one is going to be the standard, right? The 711. Can you hear me, Rod? Stop whacking that bluegill over there. Hammer that bluegill. Slide him down to me so I can pin him down real quick. So this is, I know there's some people from out of state. We don't have any people that vote on the left side of the aisle, do we? Any crap? If you do, it's okay. I ain't mad at you. I just don't want you
coming forward.
I don't want you to get your feelings hurt when I tell you the name of the rod. So it's kind of a joke, right? But we named our rod the LGB rods for Let's Go Brandon. So that's what our rods are called. That's the LGB rods. But I designed these, and this is my swimbait rod, 711 big handle. They come standard with a split grip, but you can custom order a different handle. We have custom options. Super light rod. I'll let some of you guys hold it, man. Heath you've been fishing swimbaits a long time and thrown a lot of great big swimbait rods, and that one's as light as it gets, isn't it? And I mean, you can throw an Alabama rig on it or whatever, and when you lean on one, like it's coming in the boat, dude. It's got a lot of meat on it. I mean, you guys can kind of see the flex in it. It ain't, I mean, I'm pushing on it right there, and that ain't much. So, well, big 711 rod. If you're gonna throw the big baits, I would say anytime you start getting above 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces, that's your rod, right? So when you get to that kind of mark, that's what I'm looking for. Otherwise, I've got a 7.9 rod. So like, anybody here like throw line throughs? Line through swimbait's one of the best way you can throw, dude, especially springtime. You can let it ride high in that water column, keep it in their face a long time, right? So if you like to throw line throughs don't weigh that much. You can really throw a line through on a kind of a normal rod, but you don't really feel like you're throwing a swimbait if you're not throwing a big rod, right? So we've also got a 7.9 heavy that's very similar to this. It doesn't have the extended handle. It's got kind of more of a normal handle. Feels like more of a normal rod. Makes it a little easier to cast those lighter swimbaits around. So if you're under 2 ounces, go ahead and throw that 7.9 heavy on line. If I've got a treble hook bait that weighs 2 ounces, I really prefer to use mono, 25 or 30 pound mono. If it's a lighter bait like a line through, then I'm gonna throw fluorocarbon. It's just the only reason for the mono, guys, for me is shock absorption on the knot. When you're throwing a 3, 4, 5 ounce bait, every time you sling that, that's a lot of whip going out there with all that weight, right? And it's going to stress your knot. Mono has extra stretch that absorbs that. That's why I use mono on the heavier baits. Everything else, 20 pound fluorocarbon is fine for me. I actually use high gear ratio reels. Now, that is against the grain of what most people will tell you for swimbait fishing, but I use high gear ratio reels on everything. I'm very big on being bait aware, okay? And what I mean by that is I want to know exactly what my bait's doing at all times. Not because of how fast my hand is turning the reel handle. I want to know what my bait's doing because I'm feeling it. Because I have a sense of a feel for, like I'm in my head the whole time I'm fishing, I'm trying to concentrate on what my bait looks like underwater. So when you do that instinctively, you start slowing yourself down. And you can always make yourself slow down. When one bites it and runs right at me, I can only reel so fast, guys. So that's when it comes into play to have that 7.5 to 1, that 8 to 1 reel. Now I got an advantage once I hook one up, right? So for me, it's just about having the discipline, the mental discipline to slow down when I need to slow down. I just prefer to have the high gear ratio reels. That's the gear. You want to add anything to gear?
Tip. So like I said, I usually use something a little softer tip, you know,
Yeah.
with your hard baits, and you know, just because it's basically a big treble hook bait, like a big crankbait.
Do you use mono or do you stay with fluoro?
Yeah, I stay with mono on hard baits.
You say with mono on hard
Yep.
baits? Okay.
The old trusty big game. I know there's some big game guys here.
Dude, if you're gonna throw something heavy and you're gonna throw mono, like there's nothing stronger than big game.
Yeah,
Nothing
you
stronger.
can pull up a tree with big game.
That's
It's
right.
$8 for 600 yards.
Yeah.
Well, Heath, there's my spill on gear. Talk to us about the baits and how you work them, and I'll just kind of ad-lib in wherever I can, but I'm sure you're probably going to cover it all pretty well.
For the most part, I know there's probably a handful of the guys that maybe coming from the regular seminar crowd, but for the most part, we're kind of preaching to the choir with the swim bait bunch here. So we'll just kind of go through some of the baits that I make. I'm not real active. Like I don't push a lot of. Like I don't get posts on Facebook a whole lot or Instagram a whole lot. I've got both of those. Like I have a full-time job that I like, that I'm going to retire from in a few years, and basically I do just enough to kind of, I stay behind basically on mainly the soft bait side. I dabble in the hard baits mainly just because I enjoy doing them. I think I actually did 2 batches this year instead of just 1 batch. Usually I do like 1 batch a year.
Yeah.
I did 2 batches this year of hard baits. I usually stay behind selling to Tackle Warehouse and a bunch of local smaller stores and like Bait Works and you know some of the other online retailers. So I usually stay behind with all that. So I don't try to really post and push up a lot of business because I like to sleep a little bit. So.
Here's one thing I want to let you guys know about Heath before he continues going on. Is, you know, my favorite thing about using his stuff, whether he does make regular, it's all right, he can handle it. It's American made. Yeah. And those are American made blanks and everything on our rods. So my favorite thing about fishing baits, whether it's a soft plastic or whatever, like give you a real quick example. He puts no salt in any of the soft plastics except for when he made a hand pour Cinco for a while. Because you need salt in a Cinco to make a sink. Salt goes into soft plastics to make them tear up. Y'all realize that? It ain't got nothing to do with a fish holding on to it. It ain't got nothing to do with action. Salt takes away the action in the bait. You take the salt out of a plastic and it's more buoyant, has more action. And so bait companies make baits with salt literally just use less plastic and to sell more baits because they tear up faster. You get a guy like him, he doesn't care if his sales grow. He literally makes his baits the way that he would want to fish them if he had a derby to go to tomorrow. Whether it's a swim bait or one of his other baits. But there's a lot of integrity in the way he's making them because he's not trying to grow a business. And it gives me all the confidence when he designs something. Man, it's always, everything I've ever got from him is like, yeah, that'll work. That one will catch him. So, you know, he's got a lot of time on the water, so he knows how to design baits to catch fish, and he does it with all the integrity of not caring if he sells one or not. So, yeah. One more thing, too, on the reels. How many of you guys throw, like, the big reels for your big baits? About 50-50 looks like. Like, you know what I'm talking about, like the big swim bait reels, right?
The 300.
Yeah, the big round reels, the big
Yeah.
300s.
Yeah.
And you've got a pretty big one here, but even like mine is just it's a loose Super Duty, but it's a LFSG. Now, it's got a deep spool, it's got an oversized handle, it's got oversized gears to deal with the big baits. But if you look at the profile of this reel, that's just a normal fishing reel, dude. Like, and you can tell it's durable because the dang lure sticker's off of it. But I mean, that's just a normal fishing reel, but it holds tons of line. It has all the attributes you need to throw big baits with the oversized gears and the big handles, right? So if you ever get fatigued from dealing with a big reel all day, or you're just not comfortable with that big reel in your hand, if it's your thing, it's your thing. You know, that's what matters is how confident you are in it more than anything. But if you are uncomfortable with big reels and you want one that'll handle swim baits, check out some of these Lose models. And I know you throw a lot. All yours are Lose too, I think. So
Yeah, mainly the reason I throw Lose is they just fit my hand.
yeah,
And they're what's comfortable. I don't have huge hands, I'm not a huge guy, so I like to hold a reel in a rod just like that.
Yeah.
So to me, that it just fits my hand right. I tried the round reels and I didn't like palming them.
Does anybody find those bigger reels uncomfortable in your hand?
You got a bad pinky, so it's
Yeah, some people,
Yeah.
that's what they used to. But
His pinky's not even on the rod. It's like all the way around here. Yeah. Old Sasquatch you got over there. Yeah. They can handle it.
That Corrado 300 is pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not a big round, one
Gotcha.
of those big round reels. It's the shape of a regular one. It's just bigger. It's pretty nice though.
Well, Heath, tell us about the baits and how to fish them. Let's get to the meat and potatoes, man.
the fun stuff.
Tell us what goes into these baits, making them, and how we catch them on.
Like most of these guys know, these are all rosin baits, which there's going to be a ton of baits here tomorrow. And like he said, I made all the baits because I wanted a bait to do a certain thing. Like I said, I'll never tell you that it's the best of this and the best of that. It's made to do what I wanted to do with a bait. Like, so I wanted a bluegill bait, and I wanted a floater to do this, and I've got a slow sinker also. And I wanted one that was low float. You can see just the fin sticking out. Right to the left of that
Turtle, you're about to catch a turtle.
Yeah, I know. He's looking at it.
Turtle's eye.
I can burn it and stop it, and that's how I catch a lot of fish. Just burning and stopping it. See how it slow float back up?
No, I think I could turn around and went backwards.
Yeah, and it will. Like I said, or you can just a steady retrieve, and the whole time it's hard to hear on this wooden dock, but it's down there clicking. But I'll fish it sometimes steady, but a lot of times I'll either fish it like that, just, and you can hear it clack, just a little burst. But then the other way I catch a ton of fish, and I don't know how many times I've be out fishing on the lake, and I'm fishing, and my phone will ring, and I'll grab my phone, and you know how the wind be blowing your line, and because I'm throwing mono and it's floating on top, and the wind is blowing my line. Well, that gill, I'll try to simulate my line barely moving, and my line will be just barely moving, and that bluegill will be doing that right there. And I'll be sitting there talking on the phone, and all of a sudden, one will just blow up on it.
If that doesn't look like,
yeah.
How many people have seen a wounded or sick fish on the surface?
Yeah.
That's spot on.
Because you can creep it really, really slow, and it still swims.
I saw a little orange on that belly.
Yeah, just a little bit.
What kind of areas are you targeting with it?
Stuff just like this. Like I said, throwing it up the edges of these weeds and stuff. And like I said, a lot of times if I'm around something, I'll just creep it like that. And it's just barely swimming.
That's mine. Sorry about that, bud. It's got a lid, man. I'm like a grown kid. I got a big boy sippy cup.
You just figure out what they want that day. Sometimes you just get them on a steady retrieve.
That's what's
You're about to
tied.
burn and stop it.
That's the same bait that's tied on my rod right now, guys. And if y'all are fishing this weekend, and you got y'all doing a swim bait only tournament, that's my pick, right? Because we got such a high percentage of fish that are either spawning or like right around spawning, like right after, fry guarding. And there's a ton of brim. Like literally the biggest population of brim I've seen on Lake Fork in several years is up shallow right now. So that's actually my pick. And you just take that into spawning areas and throw it around cover and use these tactics that he's talking about. And I'll tell you, what I do is I just kind of do a steady creep. And a lot of times I don't actually catch the fish. The fish doesn't actually eat the swim bait. Now, I know this won't be any good in a swim bait tournament, but for me, that fish will show itself, okay? And then I'll turn around and pitch a Cinco or a wacky worm or just flip to it with a Texas rig and catch that fish and just hold itself. It's telling you where it's spawning, what it's doing. It's spawning a little deeper, it's a bigger fish, you can't see it, and it flashes on that gill, right? And then you got that fish to react to it. Yeah, like it's just sitting on the bed, and as that bluegill eases over, it just comes up, takes a swipe at it, and really all it's doing is run. And sometimes they don't even swipe at it; they just run at it to try and make it run off. Yeah. Right. And so when they do that, now they just told me where they're sitting, and I can just sit there and make multiple casts to that fish.
And I'll hang around like after we get done talking. If y'all want to throw these and play with them, I'll hang out for a little while. This is just a little jointed bait, and like it's kind of my search bait. It's just a slow sink, about a foot a second. And I just usually steady reel it.
Well,
And
you
it's
kind of get a good look at castability. I mean, you're underneath the 6 foot
Yeah.
awning right here, and you're still able to cast it, 150 foot.
It's pretty low. You just make this right on it.
Luckily, I get a good deal on this. They're just right down the road in Silver Springs. But
What rod is that?
this is a Dobbins. This is actually what I usually throw this on. It's not a swim bait rod at all. It's just a mag heavy, 7.3 mag heavy, and that's what I throw this little bitty. Because this thing it weighs about an ounce and a quarter, so it doesn't take much. And I fish and I tune everything. I'm on the fish everything with a snap bandwagon. Some people like to direct tie. I fish a snap, and I change the snap size depending on the bait. I think this is like a number 2 or a 3, and I'll use like a 3 or 4 on some of the bigger stuff. But most time I'm just casting and reeling this one, either burning it up high.
How many joints does that one got?
2 joints. It's 3-piece bait.
3-piece bait, got you.
And all of these jointed baits, they all have carbon fiber pins. And I figured out that with the carbon fiber pins with these jointed baits, see, I can keep it moving pretty good until it gets right up next to me.
What happens with something besides carbon fiber pins?
I figured out with especially this little bitty bait that if you use a stainless pin, sometimes it would get a little top heavy and try to roll on you. So that's why I went to a carbon fiber pin. But you can count it down, like I said, about a foot a second, and you can slow roll it, and it'll still swim. So that's most time I'm just steady retrieving this bait, just over grass, on weed edges and stuff like that.
Are you the same as Billy with a high gear ratio? Or do
I will usually use probably 90% of the time, I use a 6.3 to 1. This reel's probably older than some of y'all standing here. This was back the old school Revo Premier ski grease model. And the reason I bought a whole bunch of these when they came out years and years and years ago, because they were the very first reels that had the bigger handles. For forever, all the Revos and everything had those tiny little handles. Well, they came out with that, and it had the wider handles. And I've still got, I don't know, 6 or 7 of those that I still use. Some of them have finally crapped out on me, and this is just a bigger 7.5-inch version.
For the glide bait guys, we're getting there. It's coming.
In there.
It's right there. I see it.
I was literally just about to ask
The
that.
glide bait deal is coming.
Yeah, this is just a bigger version. And the thing about these jointed baits, where they're a little different than, like say, like a bull shad.
That's a nice swim.
Where you have a bull shad where you have more of a fluid, tighter swim. This is a more of a head shake, and if you look at my rod tip, it almost looks like I'm reeling in a chatterbait. See my rod tip throbbing? And when y'all can play with it and throw it, and you'll feel the whole rod thumping. So I wanted something I could throw in dirtier water and that would put out vibration.
You're talking sexy to me now, man.
What options do you have them in? Do you have them in floating, slow sinks?
I'll have some tomorrow. I think the store, I didn't want to step on Miss Dana's toes, so I'm going to have a few on hand through her booth.
A few what?
I threw a few of these hard baits on hand, and they'll go through the store tank. So
We bought some of your baits yesterday from up there.
thank you.
Yeah.
And I've got, I think I've got like 1 floater of that left, and everything else is slow sink. And then I've only got a couple slow sinks of the little one. And I think I've got a couple floaters of the bluegill, and maybe 1 or 2 slow sinks of the gills.
Where are the floated bluegills being?
We'll have them at the table for the Lake Fork Marina table. And this is a glide. Like I said, a lot of people. Like I said, I hadn't really pushed it or anything, but I would buy a lot of glide baits. And I've spent $150, $200 for a glide bait, sometimes more than that. Throw it 3 or 4 times, and I didn't like it, and I either don't tie it on again or sell it. I wanted something I could fish really, really slow and control it. So that's why I made this, and that's why I call it the slow glide. If you like burning a glide bait, don't even think about buying this bait. I bought it because I would throw those glide baits out there, and I'd be wanting to control them and reel them slow and try to keep them in a certain spot. and they just keep falling out of sight on me, you know, or just keep falling on me. So I made one that it's almost neutrally buoyant. And it's going to be hard to see probably with this sunlight and with that dark back. Maybe I can do it out there and it'll show up a little better. Yeah, that's a little better.
What's the size of that one?
It's 7.5 and about 3 ounces. But see, this is how I fish a glide probably 99% of the time. Just little reel pulls and just letting it hang. Now I also found, like a lot of baits, right now it's a pretty choppy glide, and I didn't bring anything to do it with, but y'all all know that are familiar with glide baits, I can take that pin out and I can tighten the joints up or loosen them. If you loosen them, you get more chop. If you tighten them up, you get a really wide glide, and I'll try to do it here in a second. Even without any tools, I should be able to do it. But something else I figured out, see, and I don't try to overpower it at all. You can get a little quicker and chop it, and it still does. You know, if you're wanting to fish down alongside a dock, you can still chop it. But what I really made it for was being able to do it just like this. Just little soft bumps. And I also figured out that, I'll get it back up higher. Like if I wanted to fish something really controllable, I can steer this glide bait. And any glide bait that is this controllable, you can, like if I want it to go, say there's a dock that's 7 feet to the left, I can short bump, long bump, short bump, long bump, and I'm getting close to my line, but I can steer it.
Do something right here close to me for me, Heath, so we can pick it up on the GoPro.
That's the bad part. I need a bone one for this water to be able to film it.
Yeah, we're picking up some of it.
Yeah, that bone color is real popular down where we're at, the Highland Reservoir.
I'll do it. I'll just go against this dock. I can see. Okay, so I missed the dock. It's going to be hard for me to see that glare.
You guys got any swim bait questions? Well, we got Heath here. I mean, this dude's got a ton of
bump it,
knowledge.
and I can steer it. Let's get it out there where you can see it again. We'll just see that little.
So what?
That little floating thing to the left of where I threw. So if I want to get it over there, I can do a long bump, short bump, long bump, short bump, long bump. So I can move it wherever I want to.
You're saying you're trying to get closer to
Like he's making it swim to the left.
Like if I throw down that way and I missed a bush that I want to get it around, or if you can even swim it around a bush. Just do short chops one way and then a longer one the other way. Short chop that way, long back that way. See how I can make it go that way.
Yeah, dude, it's literally moving right.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it's kind of choppy right now. And the other thing I had a problem with is, and I didn't bring any down here with me because I didn't want to lose them, but it comes with a carbon fiber pin, but
What I like about it,
I have a stainless pin that when I want to fish deeper, I use live scope a lot. And I had a problem because you see a fish on live scope and you throw it out there and well, it's sinking that slow, it's hard to get it down to him, right? And they might swim off before you get it to them. Well, you can take this pin out and put the stainless pin in it.
You just turn the joints, right?
I just tighten the joints up.
So when you tighten the joints, it does what's the action?
It's going to make it glide really, really wide. But you can change and put that stainless pin in there, and instead of almost suspending, it's going to slow sink. But I don't have the pins are in the truck. But now you'll see the difference. Like a lot of, see how it is getting
Wanders further out to the side.
Do you sell the carbon pins?
Yeah, they come with the carbon pin and with the stainless pin.
So he gives you the option. You get the pin, you get both pins in the packaging.
I actually made I've got 4 that, and I can go get one and play with it.
You feel any extra pins in case you lose one?
I can make you some, yeah. So far, I've never had one come out. I taper them to where they fit in pretty tight. But
Yeah, we didn't really think through the elevation of this dock roof before we decided to do this down there, did we?
You get 8-foot rods and a
Yeah.
6-foot ceiling.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, that's a
but I made 4 that with the carbon fiber pin are floaters, and then you put the stainless pin in it, and they slink super slow. So, like if you wanted to fish a topwater glide, you can do that too.
Nice.
Like I said, it's mainly stuff I just make for myself, and then I sell some too.
You know, that's one thing I like about that glide bait, the slow glide he's made is I would take, you know, a standard glide bait. It's just a slow sink, you know. Name your popular glide baits. That's the one that I really liked a lot back in the day was the gliding gizzards, my HDA. Really tough to get, expensive one. But all the glide baits I had were all pretty much slow sinks. One thing I used to love to do is, you know, we get that big topwater bite, right? Big topwater snoop bite on the sport. You take a glide bait, it was a slow sink, you throw it way out there, you hold your rod up and you just twitch. Just like if you're walking a dog down here with a spook, instead just hold your rod up, twitch, 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 and those slow sling guide baits would do this. But they're constantly moving. It takes away the slowness and the pause effect that a glide bait has, which is one of the big positives of a glide bait is you can put it in their face and leave it there. Now that he's designed this one will stay right there on the surface, and you can hit it without having to even work the rod. You can get that same top water walking action, but you can also just leave it in their face and go slower, which is a big advantage of glide bait. You know, there's something about big bass, guys. I've got a working theory I call movement without movement. If you think about big bass baits that catch big bass. It'd be all right, they're American made. Tell me a technique, a bass fish technique that's known to catch big bass. Name one besides this one. Jig.
Carolina.
Hollow body frog, right? Hollow body frog catches giants, right? All of those techniques, if you think about it, they create movement without movement. What does a line through swim bait do? Tail's kicking, bait's going. All these big fish techniques have one thing in common. It's movement without movement. It's a lot of side to side, a lot of kicking, a lot of disturbance in the water, but not taking that bait away from that fish very fast. Those big fish, if you ever see them in the water, especially like right now we're sight fishing a lot, right? So if you watch these fish on beds and you get around a real big one, you know, sometimes it's hard to judge exactly how big they are in the water, if they're a little deeper, water's a little dirty, whatever. One thing you can do to know when one's real damn big is when that sucker, even when it swims out of the bed or runs off, when it just goes and just moves real slow everywhere it goes. If it ain't 10, it's close, boys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, them real big mature bass, they got them big bellies and they got them wide shoulders, they're not moving anywhere real fast, except for maybe a little short burst to bite something. And that's, most of the time they don't even do that. They just sit there and wait till something's close and they open their mouth. So you've got to create a bait. You got to have a bait, like a jig, they'll sit there in that skirt and the trailer's just doing this and the jig's just barely crawling along, right? Like, that's the way most of us catch real, like the big giant fish you catch on a jig. You talk to guys that have done it, 90% of the time, they're crawling. It ain't no stroking, it ain't no swimming, it ain't no hopping. It's just barely ticking off something on the bottom, creating a little bit of movement with the jig, but it's really not moving forward.
Counting pebbles.
Well,
That's a huge advantage of these glide baits and these big swim baits is they create movement without very much forward movement. That's one of the reasons, besides I think everybody falls in love with the big profiles, but the action, guys, the action is what makes, because you can throw, like that big giant Kitech they make, how many 10-pounders are caught on that? Not a lot. You can't fish it slow enough. Compared to a line through, you know, you just don't get, you know what I mean? So that's my opinion on it.
If you ever watch, like I said, y'all know who, everybody knows who Butch is.
But it tears up.
If you ever watch a Butch Brown cast to catch video, you could almost go make yourself a sandwich after he casts.
Yeah.
Pour your drink, sit down, and then finally, he might be halfway through the cast. You know, by the time, like I said, a lot of his you'll watch, they'll fast forward to about half the retrieve because they don't, you know, you're not going to sit there for 2 minutes while he's sitting there reeling he throws, you know, he throws the depths, he throws the depths or a hood a lot. And man, he's just painfully slow.
Yeah.
Just painfully slow.
Well,
So that's where I would need a slower gear ratio because I can't tell my brain to do that. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good.
And you can, like this glide bait, you can steady retrieve it too. Just a nice, slow, steady retrieve. And then once it gets up here closer, you go see it. It just kind of wanders back and forth.
That's one thing I've noticed when me and he fish together, though, me being less of a swim bait guy because of the guiding aspect. Man, he fishes, his retrieves are a lot slower than mine on like everything, you know, because he's just used to that swim bait cadence. And I'm used to chatterbait, trap, whatever. And I'm like, you know, closer to what a tournament guy would be. And he's out here hunting for a big on swim bait. And even when he's throwing a chatterbait, a lot of times he's getting the bait deeper, you know, fishing it slower, bouncing off bottom, whatever. And I'm over there just getting it, you know.
That's the.
And he usually kicks my butt.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, especially with soft baits, is, you know, people think that when people that don't throw swim baits, they think swim baits is like this mystery, magical thing. Soft baits especially is not a mystery, magical thing. You throw it out there and you do this.
It's just
99.9% of the time you throw it out there and you do just like this.
Well, I think Billy made a good point. I think a lot of the bigger fish that I've caught are kind of by accident. Like you throw it out there, but the current in the water, you know,
creates a little
conditions.
movement.
Yeah, it's those times where maybe I'm digging out of, and I hate to say
How many
it, you know,
stores are digging out of backlash?
Digging out of backlash,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I feel that weight, and I'm like, oh shit, here we go.
That's like I was talking about that floating bluegill. I don't know how many fish I've caught. Phone rings,
Just sitting there.
and you're like,
It's the wife. What's for dinner tonight?
or you're like, I've got to answer my phone all the time when it rings, but you never know who it's going to be or what it's going to be.
So for a line through swim bait, what would you say like your best retrieve? Just that straight, just slow.
Yep.
Let it sink it all, or just right off.
I'll bomb it out there, and usually if I'm throwing a line through, I'm fishing in less than 6 feet of water.
Yep.
90% of the time. Sometimes it'll go. You know, if I'm live scoping over top of brush piles or something like that. There's different situations,
Exceptions.
but normally the traditional fishing a line through, it's throw it out there, let it sink 3 or 4 seconds, and then just this. Point your rod right at it, and do this right here.
Let's talk about that for a second because that's an important part of your fundamentals in swim bait fishing. You know, I know I'm sitting here telling you guys I don't fish a swim bait a lot, but Heath knows this. Before I started guiding, and right when I first started guiding, which is when Heath met me, I was throwing the big baits back then. It's just as I've gone further into guiding, I've faded away because it's not as well suited for guiding as it is for just me going out
Yeah,
fishing.
because you don't want to get on
You get different guys every day.
you don't want to get on a swim bait bite, and then your customers tomorrow or a 8-year-old kid and his
Yeah.
mom. That
Yeah.
She bought this trip for him for his birthday, and she doesn't fish. You know, so he's got to be able to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So
So,
when we go, I usually have one of these or a soft swim bait in my hand.
and what's funny is I'll start fishing my stuff, and as soon as he gets 1 or 2 bites on the swim bait, all the memories start coming back, and I'm like, yeah, let me get that rod. Pick one of his other rods up, and then he throws his rods with no break. So every time I pick up one of his rods, the first cast, I'm used to having customer settings. on rod.
Yeah.
So he has no brakes on his reels. So every time, I'm like, oh god, I forgot.
Pretty wide open.
But anyways, let's talk about the rod being pointed straight. I think as far as a fundamental or a technique or like a tip of how to fish a swim bait properly, I think that the rod being pointed at it on your weedless and line through baits is probably the most important thing that really doesn't get talked about very much. It does so many things. If it's a weedless bait and I throw it in there, if my rod is down to the side with an angle of line, let me borrow your rod real quick. So if I'm holding my rod at this angle here and reeling a weedless swim bait, that allows the flex of the rod to let the bait wad up and load up on that jump. But if I'm pointing right at it, and I mean right at it, where the line, and I'm talking about I don't want any upward angle, I don't want any downward angle. A lot of people, I'll tell them, guide customers, tell them point it straight at it, and they'll go like this. No, that still allows the bend in the rod to let the junk load. Point it where the line comes directly out of the rod tip. And in this way, when I'm reeling a weedless bait through junk, it applies direct pressure to the bait, and it will bulldog through anything. You can fish a weedless swim bait through anything you want to, and anybody can with any level of experience. Usually, even if it catches on there, you just give it a little burst like that, and it'll shoot through it. But the other thing it does that's so important when you get a bite on a big swim bait or any kind of swim bait for that matter, at times you usually get 1 or 2 bites. Like when they, we know they bump it and don't get it. We all know that, right? Just keep reeling. That's another point. When they bump it, don't get it. Just keep reeling.
Here's the thing that some of y'all probably know this, but some of y'all might not. Have you ever been fishing a big weedless swim bait or a big line through swim bait, and you're reeling, all of a sudden it, boom, boom, boom. You're still reeling, or maybe you jerked it. Boom, boom, and it's like 5 or 6 times. You think, man, that's the same fish. You can't hit it. It's not the same fish 99% of the time.
Yep.
It's a pack of 6 to 8 bass, and they're taking turns tagging.
One hits it, then the other one's like, I'm gonna go hit it. And then what happens is if you keep coming, eventually one will sure enough come out of nowhere and knock the fire out of it and eat it.
One of them decides he wants it.
So the 2 bites you
Does that
usually
say you
get,
to slow down a little bit?
the 2
And don't change anything. Just
no,
keep it coming.
you got their
Exactly the way
attention.
it
Yeah, it's the matter of time at that point. Yeah. The 2 things that happen when you get a bite where a fish eats a swim bait is they hit it and knock 18 feet of slack in your line. Like, not 18 feet, but you know what I mean? Like they hit it and give you a bunch of slack in your line. Or they hit it going the other way and it's like this. It's like, oh God. Like self-defense like that, right? So that's the 2 bites you get on a swim bait, especially the bigger ones. If you've got your rod pointed right at them and they knock a lot of slack in your line, you can pick up the most slack if your rod is already tight, if your line's already tight. So that's the easiest way to get your slack picked up and get the hook in them if your rod's pointed right at them. Now, if they hit it going the other way and you don't really get a chance to set the hook on them, the easiest way to apply direct pressure the instant they hit it is by having your line tight and having your rod pointed right at him.
Look how far he just threw that.
Oh yeah, he can sling it.
Dude, I mean, under this?
Yeah, he can sling it. No, he's for real, dude. Like he's legit. Yeah. People don't realize how good of a fish for this thing.
I think I might have hit the roof on that one.
Yeah, but that's so pointing the rod at it does so many things. It helps you go through junk. It helps you set the hook correctly. It helps you recover when one knocks slack in your line. So when you're fishing a weedless or line through bait, make sure that line is straight out of the rod.
But not down.
Not down. I'm talking about
draw the bait
I'm
down.
talking about draw a straight line from your reel to your bait.
You want it.
No bending.
The other thing is too that I've noticed, especially on soft plastics, is if you've got a bow in your line or if you've got some kind of angle off, it doesn't swim the way it needs to.
You don't want it
lose
right
action.
over here. You don't want it over here. You don't want it over here. You want it just like this. And when it hits it, you don't want to just jerk right when you feel that. The instinct when they do that is to put it to them. You've got to try to be disciplined to let him almost start pulling you, and then take a step back and get it.
Man, that's tough. Yeah.
It is.
And it's really important, like on your bigger stuff, like Citizens, like my gizzard shad, stuff that has a lot of plastic to get through. You've got to let them have it. You can't. You'll miss so many fish. Because that's like a Citizen. A lot of y'all know what a Citizen is. That's a chunk of plastic, and you fish it on like
burritos or two.
the same way. You it has like an 8-ounce hook in it, but still, it's still a lot of plastic to get through. So you gotta let them have it, let it load up.
So what's the best
Man, those are pointers you can't
conditions, water clarity, color?
That's something we talked about a little bit. Like earlier this year, we had a little pre-spawn warming trend. I brought Heath out here, and it's pre-spawn warming trend, and the water's just come up. And I'm talking about it's pretty dirty. Yeah. Like way dirtier than most people are gonna reach for a swim bait on. Right. And of course, he's gonna reach for a swim bait. He just gets him a pearl white one. And I like your first or second cast, he catches like a 6-pounder or something. Yeah. Like right away. So that was the comment that as the fish came in the boat was, yeah, no, they don't bite them swim baits in dirty water. Don't throw them in dirty water. And the water's like brown in the background, like brown.
I will throw a swim bait in dirtier water than you're supposed to.
I mean, fish are gonna bite it. I mean, it looks like a damn fish.
Yeah. Yeah, here's the thing. Here's the thing that you got to think about. We all think about, when the water gets dirty, we got to throw something that is black or makes a lot of vibration or whatever. They're still eating shad in that dirty water.
They can find
the shad
swimming around. They can find this thing that's clacking and thumping.
Right.
Yeah, or even a soft plastic that's silent. They can find it.
This thing's making that noise in the water.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. No,
that comes from their lateral lines. They're going to pick up on that.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any such a thing.
It's an instinct.
It would have to be pretty extreme for the water to be too dirty where I would go, no, we should not be throwing a swim bait. Right. Like, if I think it's time to throw a swim bait, which it is a lot of times before.
If it's chocolate milk, cold water, no.
you know, it's not swim bait time. But when the water's like 60 degrees, it can be pretty stinking dirty, and you can still throw a swim bait.
Especially if it's 70-something degrees and it gets dirty, you can definitely catch them on it still. You know, I will say this. My preferred ideal conditions for throwing a swim bait are going to be sunny and windy. Like, I like sun. I think that may be a fork thing with me on the sunny, because I know a lot of places you're probably going to catch them better when it's cloudy.
He likes sun, and I like
yeah, and I like
or worse.
But I'm gonna tell you, there's something on Lake Fork about Florida bass strain or whatever it is, but they kind of seem to get a little more active when the sun pops out. And it happens in the, you know, when we're offshore out deep, we use the excuse of, well, it's because they're deeper and the light pushes them down and gathers them up. Or when they're spawning, we use, well, that's because they feel better, they get up there on the beds and lock on better. But to me, it seems like throughout the year, we actually have typically better day in, day out luck in the sun than we do in the cloud cover, which is a weird deal. It's kind of an anomaly. When we go other places, when me and him go places, and it's like a gray, nasty day, we're like, oh boy, it's going down.
A key to, I think, to that deal, one of the lakes I like to fish is Lake Welsh.
Water clear.
The water is crystal clear.
Yeah.
So when
That's
it
what I
gets
was gonna
nasty and rainy,
There you go.
they will chew on some swim baits.
What about when the water's gin clear? You know?
See, I love super clear waters. Like, because Welsh is super clear.
Okay.
And that's when I really, really like to throw them, because you can draw fish from a long ways.
I've seen,
When you go to, we've been to Welsh.
you get wolf packs come to your boat with the bait.
You're reeling it in, and if you don't get a bite, you look down, there's 3 or 4 following it.
Sometimes more than that.
Or more than that.
There was one summer where it was like, even when you would catch one, there'd be legitimately 10 to 20 fish with it. Like, they'd be bees swarming your boat.
I'm from Minnesota, and up at Mille Lacs, we fish smallies.
He's been there.
I mean, oh yeah, we catch tanks, smallies.
We didn't talk later.
Yeah, he's been there a few times.
The
right?
water is just fuck.
I haven't thrown a swim bait up there. Like a
Okay.
big swim bait?
Yep.
I'll catch them on small swim baits up there.
Small, yeah. Yep.
But I haven't even taken any of my big stuff up there, because usually I've got my kids.
Do you throw some bigger stuff at those smallies sometimes?
Yep.
You catch them on glides up there?
Yep.
Yeah, we need to talk a little bit.
Well, up there, that would work for pike, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, pike, muskie. I mean, there's big ass muskie up there too. Pike, muskie.
My brain goes straight to Ned rig if we're talking northern.
See, my brain doesn't have that department.
It's
Drop
hard.
shot, Ned rig,
Right.
I'm out. I'm gone.
I knew he was gonna say that.
Anything with an egg beater, I'm gone. Y'all know, for those of y'all that don't know me, I got to tell y'all my stance on drop shotting now. You can catch good fish on a drop shot. You can absolutely win tournaments throwing a drop shot. You're still going to look gay doing it.
LDV.
That's where I fall on the drop shot right there.
Yeah.
Have a Bud Light.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Drop shotters drink Bud Light. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, which reminds me, you got to the temperature gauge on your camera. On my camera, come on. I didn't do that because
It's hard up there throwing.
I feel like I can get off. Well, I didn't put it there, so I don't even drink.
Just some of the expensive. You know what I mean? They're.
See, that's what I'd be afraid of.
Because you get
like,
pike, tear your stuff up.
I don't want to lose a $200 bait to a 2-pound pike.
Well,
Yeah.
or you'll get a freaking muskie.
Yeah, and well, if I catch them, yeah, well, a little line snapper will take it too. You know, and that's the bad thing. And I was excited to fish down here because you don't have to. I don't have to put a leader. You know, but up there,
So you have to throw steel leaders on everything, huh?
or fluorocarbon. You know,
Real heavy.
You get a 100-pound fluorocarbon leader, or less, whatever,
That's
less
just to
or more.
protect from the toothy fish.
Right. Yeah. If I'm gonna, I mean, I don't want to be throwing $200-300 swim bait and have some little
Yeah, y'all
bite
got a
take
whole
it
different
off.
dynamic going on up there.
And then-
them toothy critters.
But the leader affects the swim, obviously,
I'm sure.
of a glide.
has to.
So it's like
It would have to.
I fish glides, but it's difficult. I'd rather fish a wake or crank down or something, where I can fish with a leader and not affect the action.
Yeah.
Leader affects the sink rate too.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Anyway,
Is it
Like
just
to the
as gay
woods
to
and-
throw a wacky rig though?
There were some
No.
badass
No, it's not.
that were turned.
If you can throw, listen, if you can throw it,
So that's where you draw the line?
I draw the line and I'm not picking up a spinning rod, dude. Like, we're on a bait caster. If you can, listen,
Lake
if I
of the
can skip a
Woods,
wacky rig under a dock on a bait caster, no, I'm good, dude.
Relax. There's a lot of big
Now, not a lot of people can skip a wacky rig trick worm on a bait caster, but But yeah, if you can do that, you're not drinking Bud Light.
You're not
You're still drinking Miller Light.
Yeah,
Or Coors, whatever you want.
Just drink whiskey and you don't have to worry about it.
That's my man.
Takes it to it.
Hey,
Yeah.
you ain't said nothing but a thing. Boy.
Where's your red cup at?
It's the black cup. It's right there.
Oh, black cup. Right.
It's a long timer. That's a
the
long
Lake
timer for
Forest
when we're gonna be
sticker
gone
on
from home for a while.
Yeah. That's long.
That's tea in that black cup, folks at home. That's tea.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any other questions?
It was fun.
I noticed y'all are using, is this mono or fluoro? And it's about 20 to 25. I think.
Yeah, I use 20 to 25 pound big game on all the hard
Never
baits.
braid, even though some of the big ones can take you
don't.
down
I
in
just
the trash.
I do not like braid on anything but a frog. That's just like there's people that will throw braid to like a mono or fluoro leader. I do not like braid for anything but a frog.
Got to be a certain situation. When I first met this guy, I was throwing some of his baits when I first met him. And there was another guy that I was buddies with that was working with him on using big swim baits. And so we were fishing a lake that had hyacinth mats and pad stems. And we were dusting them, dude. And the first day that I went out there, and I wasn't really expecting that bite, the first day that I found that bite, I had mono and fluoro on, and I had a frog rod with braid, but it was like a little 7-foot, little skipping frog rod. I didn't have a big swim bait rod with braid on it. And man, I got broke off so many times, and these were big fish. We're catching donks, dude, and it was like getting broke off. So I went home, I called this buddy of mine that he was working with at the time that I didn't even know Heath at the time. I just was fishing his baits a little bit. I called him, I said, man, when's your next date we can get together? Thanksgiving Day. All right, Thanksgiving Day. We're doing it. Forget Thanksgiving, forget eating turkey. There's a swim bait bite that I got to show you, dog. But put some braid on your swim bait rod because this cover was so gnarly, and it was not wood cover. Wood cover and braid, bad deal. Bad combination there. You're going to have more problems than you care to shake a stick at with wood and braid. But vegetation cover, whether it's emergent or submergent, hydrilla, coontail, pad stems, hyacinth, pond weed, whatever it is, any kind of vegetation, we put 65-pound braid on big swim bait rods, and we dropped the hammer on them. And it was really, I think we can probably say this without bragging and say that it was one of the most awesome swim bait videos that's been made, still to this day. And it really
You realize how long ago that was?
kicked. Yeah, it's been about 8 years, 8 years. Yeah, and it really kind of kicked off a lot of sales for him because he met it. That was the day I met him. Was the day we shot that video. He showed up at boat ramp because my buddy that was guiding that was working with him called him and said, "Hey, we're fixing to go bust him on a swim bait. We need some baits." And he just brought us a Tupperware thing full of
Yeah, they were throwing big
weedless.
swim
Because in that
baits
junk you had to throw
on a
weedless
10-aught
baits.
hook. But that, like
10-aught
you said,
weedless.
that's the time I will throw braid is pad stems because you cannot get anything.
You get an 8-pounder on the pad stems on anything but braid,
Yeah, once they get their head down, you can get in
you're
real
in a
trouble.
bind. Yeah, you're in a bind. Yeah.
Is there ever a time that you're trying to match the size of the bait that's in the water?
I will, and that's a lot of times when I'll throw this. Like if I see a lot of smaller shad, I'll do this. Like especially here and maybe already starting pretty soon. You start seeing a shad spawn. I don't know, there's parts of the world it's already starting. But them shad will
It's starting
spawn.
here. It started
yeah,
here.
Those
It
shad will
started here.
spawn right at daylight in bushes like this, and they'll just be everywhere. You can run this on the outside of those bushes, just like this, and it looks a lot like those little shad run everywhere.
You say there is a shad spawn
Oh
happening?
yeah, big time.
So cool question about like a spinning
Big
rod.
time.
So do you guys ever go like braid to leader for spinning rods, or do you just go straight like?
Well, I'm probably the worst person on earth to ask that. I literally don't use a spinning rod. I'll go down to like a weightless trick worm and I'll throw that on a bait caster too. So I'm just that.
The only time I use braid to floral leader is
You use a
on a
pole.
spinning rod.
Yeah. So on a spinning pole. Now I do have customers sometimes that need a spinning pole, and we use braid to floral leader on that. Okay. So is that what you're asking? Do we
Yeah,
use-
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, man. If you try to go like straight floral or something on a spinning pole, wind knots,
See, I'm
line
equal
twists become.
opportunity, whereas he won't pick up a spinning rod.
He will.
I will, like especially when I go up north and chase smallmouth. Even there's some lakes here that I'll get on a good live scope deep bite, and I don't really even sell it, but I make a little 3-inch finesse swim bait that I just use, and I pour my little ball heads, and that's what I'll use on a spinning rod, so I can bomb it out there, and I'll use braid to like a 12-foot fluorocarbon leader.
And my deal is, I'm trying to catch 5. I'm not trying to catch 25. My deal, the way I've always fished and the way I've, branded my guide business and the way I've done my whole life is I'm trying to catch the 5 biggest bass I can every day, just because I watch Bassmasters growing up or whatever, right? But that's what I do. So around here, and I don't really travel because I don't tournament fish anymore or anything. Around here, you just don't really get in a situation where you absolutely have to use a spinning rod to catch 5. If you, I mean, it's so rare. I mean, I can't even really think of one where, you know, like I can throw. Listen, I do actually throw a drop shot when it gets real tough, like in the fall. Sometimes it gets real tough. I will throw a drop shot, but I'm throwing it on 10 or 12 pound line on a medium action bait casting rod, and I'm throwing it with a little 1 or 2 aught hook, you know, EWG style. And so because the water is stained, because it's heavy cover, because it's bigger fish and bigger bait in these lakes, we just don't have a reason that we have to use a spinning rod unless you can't cast a bait cast.
Yeah, if all I did was fish like around here, I probably wouldn't as much, but I've become addicted to smallmouth.
Yeah, he goes up north every year and uses it. And then, like you said, again, Lake Welsh is, I know I've seen you use that little ball head deal.
I'll use it at Welsh when those fish get out. Those fish will group up out there, out deep, and they're eating shad about this.
He's out there doing that, and I'm throwing spoons this big, and like if they don't bite, it's like, well, they just didn't bite, guys.
Heath, how about Belton? Have you tried
Never been.
Yeah, there's a lot of them there too.
Yeah, I've been.
It's fun.
Yeah, I've never been out that way to chase them.
Belton is an irritating lake, if you ask me, because
Yeah,
you're gonna catch more smallmouth like this than you've ever caught in your life.
Yeah.
But trying to catch anything like this, tough.
See,
You got
All that on this time of year on a real short leader Carolina River. That's a
I fished Texoma before, but those smallmouth are completely different than
they're almost like largemouth.
like the Yankee smallmouth. They're the different animal. They're
Well,
so
those ones
smart.
on Belton are kind of like that too, right? Like they're kind of like they behave like largemouth. Like, I don't know anything about smallmouth fishing. I went down there and caught
You're right, yeah.
a million smallmouth that were all 1.5 pounders or whatever, but you're catching them on a crankbait on a channel swing point. It's the same thing we do in the fall here, just a little deeper banks on Belton, steeper drops, but it's the same thing. It's smallmouth.
You go up north, you're looking for like a magic boulder. But
different deal.
And the boulders are like the size of this.
Yeah, it's totally different deal.
And they're, instead of being, you know, this long and this wide, like in Texas smallmouth, they're this long and that big around.
Yeah.
Here's one thing that I've learned over
And
the
that
years.
fight's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
One thing I've learned over the years is a bass is a daggone bass. Whether it's a smallmouth, or whether it's a largemouth, or whether it's a spotted bass. It's going to do what it does based on the conditions presented to it.
Right.
So if you mimic these conditions, that lake will fish exactly like Lake Fork.
Right.
Now, those fish may bite a little more readily if they're not as pressured as Lake Fork. But if you give them the same exact conditions, which would include fishing pressure, they will behave the exact same way, right? Like if you got, you know, any lakes that are just real similar, the bass are gonna fish the same. So that's why a lot of times, you know, when we're doing our social media stuff and content, you know, you'll hear me say, hey guys, this is working on Lake Fork or a lot of other lakes in this region. Because all the bass that have similar conditions are doing the same thing. And smallmouth the same way. I mean, they got two things that they care about. Right now, some of them care about reproducing. And after that, they care about eating. And that's all they care about. They don't even have the brain capacity to think about anything.
Yeah,
See,
and
that's a fun time for me.
with live scope or whatever forward facing sonar you want to call it, it has kind of proven a lot of our theories, all the learned doctors of bass fishing, that a lot of that was bull, because they're seeing fish doing stuff. Why are these 10 pounders out here in 40 foot of water, but they're only 10 foot down?
Right.
They're just roaming around like, you know, they're
hanging
supposed
out
to be, it's got to be a creek channel. That's not always the rule.
No.
And now you're starting to see, like, if anybody's been keeping up with the Open on Toledo, Milliken just dropped
What did you catch today?
He's leading
29.
by 20 pounds.
29 again today?
No, that was the other day.
He has 57 for his 2-day total.
Yeah.
The second place guy is 36.
Yeah, and you know what he's doing?
Smoking.
A lot of the time, he's throwing a big swim bait on looking at it on live.
Well, he
scope.
said he's not scoping.
He's probably doing some.
Yeah.
He was throwing a line through, I know today. Now, whether he was just throwing it up shallow traditionally, but if you've ever watched any of his videos,
Well,
and a lot of the guys are, because I know several of the Bass Pro Tour and the Elite Series guys that usually never would pick up a swim bait.
Live scope is making them pick up swim bait because they've been able to see
The reaction.
what a glide bait,
Nothing
what a glide
draws
bait
a
and a big
fish.
swim bait can do to live scope fish.
It looks like
Nothing
he
will-
lives on that live scope.
Nothing
on
will
all
draw a
his videos.
fish like a big swim bait.
No,
Nothing.
nothing.
Talking about he's living on live scope. I gotta say this about, if you're gonna say that about Ben, I've known Ben probably longer than anybody in Texas, or I'm top 5 and guys that's known him the longest. And I've seen who he was as a fisherman when he first came down here. He was still living in Nebraska, and he just came down here on a trip, on his first trip to Texas. That's when I met him. He's not living on live scope.
Well, I'm just saying
That
his
dude-
videos that he posts
Yeah.
is most of the time he's
Yeah.
in the bow of the boat looking in the live
Well, that's
scope
what's
and casting
easiest
to
for
him.
him right now to post videos. So when you're making social media videos, right? You're
I'm
going-
not saying he can't fish.
Oh, I know. But you're going out to, but there's a myth out there right now that he's a live scope guy. And he's not a live scope guy. That dude will whoop you butt sight fishing. Like, he'll grind a trap in some hydrilla. Like, he's got a well-diverse game. And what it is a guy has spent 8 years now traveling the country and fishing more days than tour guys do.
Yeah.
He's on the water 250 to 300 days a year, and he's not doing anything but trying to catch fish. He ain't got to worry about guide customers. He ain't got to worry about tournaments. Like, for those 8 years, he has molded and trained himself into probably one of, if not the most knowledgeable bass fishermen in the country. And he's very, very, very versatile.
Does he own 6 Cents?
No, he doesn't own 6
He's a
Cents.
part owner.
So the way that works is, hopefully they don't try to sue me for this. The way that works is, Ben starts out as just like everybody else. He gets a discount on baits, right? You know, 9 years ago, whatever it was, 10 years ago. That progresses into getting free baits. That progresses into he's getting a paycheck and free baits. And then eventually, they want Ben on their team for long term. Ben wants to be a bigger part of 6 Cents. How does the company make sure a guy stays with them for the long term and does everything he can to sell the most baits he can? They give him a percentage of the company. It's not just him. Same thing. Favorite Rods. Remember Favorite Rods? That
Yes.
got forgotten about now. Favorite Rods went from non-existent to the biggest rod company in the world in 18 months. The biggest rod company in the world in 18 months. They've fallen back off now. But how did that happen? When they started, they gave the Googans a percentage of their company, so the Googans pushed
Is that who
product.
makes Guggen rods?
No.
Guggen makes
No,
them?
Guggen and Favorite, they're not together anymore, and that's
Okay.
why Favorite has gone back down.
Oh.
But they literally gave those Guggen guys a percentage of the business to incentivize them to grow the business and sell it. It's the same thing that Ben and 6 Cents are. So he owns a minority percentage, like a small percentage. I don't know what his percentage. I have no idea what his percentage is.
That knack for fishing, it has nothing to do with the company of 6 Cents, but I know that, like, my brother, which is a better fisherman than I am, and I'll say it right now, he has a 6th sense to find. It's just a knack to find and catch those fish.
He doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't. Let me tell you, he's just more mentally occupied with it.
Yes.
He just spends more hours thinking about
That's what it is.
That's all. And what is that? That's effort. That's work. That's all it is. It's fishing's the number one thing. Like
But
fishing.
it seems effortless for him, though.
No, he's
But
that guy.
But no one thinks
It
like
also
he
seems
is.
effortless when LeBron makes a three-pointer. But how many three-pointers did he shoot when he was a kid?
Right.
Same thing with anybody that's real good at fishing. It may look like I can take. How many of you guys can take a weightless wacky trick worm and skip it under that dock right there? How many?
Catch fish. Yeah.
How many can actually skip it on a bait caster under there?
Can you do that every
I
time?
do it with jigs.
Yeah.
all the
Every
time.
time.
Yeah, but you know how many times I've skipped a bait under a dock my whole life? Like, it's there's a lot of work. It's no different. Everything is the same, right? Like, you just gotta outwork everybody. And I can tell you, I've been around Ben, and this is one thing I'll say about Ben. He wears me out, dude. Like, we're going out there to film social media content. Oh, what I was gonna get at earlier. When you're going to film social media content, you're trying to make a fishing show. That's what you're doing. You're trying to make a fishing TV show. It just gets posted on the internet instead of a network, right? When you're doing that, you're going to the place that you can catch quality fish the easiest. That's what you got to do. And you can't go to the same place every time, so you got to find multiple places. But you're always looking for a place where, all right, I know I'm going to get some bites. I know I'm going to get some. Because the worst thing in the world is to spend the time and money to go out and film a video and not get catches. That you're literally taking money out of your pocket, throw it in the water when you're doing that. So what Ben's doing when you sell the live scope videos, he's going to smaller bodies of water where the fish got less places to hide, and he can hunt them down on live scope, and that's what's easiest for him to make videos. But it doesn't mean he can't do he doesn't practice and do all that other stuff. Because here's what I know about that guy: he's daylight to dark. Like, it has been for 10 years. I mean, he is daylight to dark, dude. That guy is the most fishing obsessed dude I've ever been around, including tour professionals. I've been around Lee Livesey. I've been around James Degemeyer. I've been around Jeff Sprague. I've been in the boat with some of those guys. I've seen them day in and day out on this lake when they were guiding here, right? I've been around all the Guggen guys. Nobody puts more time on the water than Ben Milliken. I'll promise you that, dude. We'll go out, film, and have a video done, and we've been out there for 9 or 10 hours, and I'm like,
gotta go get a sandwich.
He's like, no, man, we got 3 more hours of daylight, dog. We can catch some more. I'm like, man, come on. We've caught 85. What do you want to do? You know, like, it's like we're on Welsh and we're catching all 3 to 4 or 5 pounders. All of us the same. We've been catching them all day long, and he's still going. Yeah, like his grind on bass is unmatched by anybody I've ever seen. So I will literally say this to you right now. It would not surprise me if by the end of next year or the year after, Ben Milliken is top 5 angler in the world.
That's what I was thinking.
Maybe number 1. Like,
just the way
it's
his
easy to say right
video
now.
progression seems to go.
He's gonna tear up the
It's
open.
easy to say right now because he's fished 1.5 opens and he's been a top 5 and he's in the league. So it's really easy to
Lead
jump
by
on that train
22
right now.
pounds.
So we got to be careful with our expectations because it's unfair to expect this guy to even qualify in his first year, let alone do what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't qualify. Like, that's natural, that's normal.
Where does he live? Like around South Texas? Oh, Houston,
Houston,
right?
close to Houston now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, close to Houston now. New Caney, which is close to Houston. It's also where Adam Dunn came from. Adam Dunn was a really good baseball player. That's right where I grew up, right down there.
Like you said, man, that mentality thing is huge. Like,
He's got it, man.
Percent that you like think about fishing.
Yeah. Yep.
Like most like normal people, like you think
No
about
doubt.
fishing, but then you gotta think about work. Like all day, he's probably like, work I go get a 10, work I go get a 13. Like, oh, I gotta like he's probably just thinking.
Well, and
all
even
day.
before he had that opportunity, when he was working a regular job, he was, I was much the same way. He was, I can tell you guys from my experience, how did I end up being a guide on Lake Fork and not working for the man anymore? Effort, dude. Just mental obsession and effort. Like, all day long at work, I was thinking about fishing. I got to the point where my job performance literally was struggling. The closer I got to going full-time in guiding, my job performance was literally sliding and sliding. And one of the reasons that I quit my job and started guiding is I could see that one of them was going to give. That I wasn't doing right by this company, and I wasn't going to let go of this fishing deal. And that's literally part of the reason, like, one of my bosses that I worked for a long time pulled me in and was like, what's going on, man? You got too much on your plate, don't you? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's a lot, man, like, because I'd already started the guide business, I was starting social media stuff. He was like, hey, we understand what you're doing, but like, you owe us. I was like, all right, cool. I thought about it for about 2 days, walked in there, handed my 2-week notice. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, I can't do both.
You gotta
So-
follow your heart. Yeah.
My mind just wouldn't let go of it, man. And that was years of that. That was years of, back in the day, DVRing every fishing show, reading every article, all that stuff. Every time I drive by a creek, I'm looking out in the pasture like, where would they set up on that? Like, to that level of everything that you do turns into a, how would I catch bass with this, even when it has no water involved?
Right. Yeah.
Like, it was that level of obsession. So, if you want to be one of the better ones at something and you want to make a living in the fishing industry or any other industry, whatever it is, I don't care what it is. If you get mentally obsessed with it and you go all in mentally, like, there's nothing to stop you. There's not anything. Like, you could be one of the most unathletic people in the world, but if you decided at early enough age to give yourself the time to do it, that you want to be one of the best hitters of a baseball in the world, you can do it. You can train, you can retrain your body, you can control your diet with discipline. I don't have to, thank God I didn't pick somewhere I had to do that because I like to eat. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you can do whatever you want to with mental effort. That's all.
Oh, it's 100% mine.
Gerald Swindle said that to a group of kids. I remember, just the discipline that.
Dude, and anybody can fish.
It's anything.
Like, it takes, like, you don't have to be able to skip docks to win tournaments, right? You don't. You don't have to be able to make a backhanded cast to the corner of that dock to win tournaments. Anybody has the physical attributes they need to win fishing tournaments. Or to be just a great fisherman and make content and all that stuff, right? Like, everybody has that. It's just a matter
No,
of...
not everybody to make
Fishermen just don't
content.
magically.
And that's
Sure they
what,
do.
no, you have a different kind
But
of
they can
knack,
train
and I
themselves to
still
do it. So they can train themselves to do it. Yes, for me, talking to a camera has come easy and natural, and that's been a bonus for me. But anybody can teach themselves to do that.
Yeah,
Even the most camera shy person, if they want it bad enough, will force themselves to learn it.
yeah, they can learn.
I think
It'll take a lot of work for me.
I think me and you
had this conversation before, and it stems from something I heard Brandon Polnick say on a podcast or something. You know, they were talking about. I think somebody said that you've got to love it, and Polnick was like, no, that's not enough.
Not it.
Like you've got to not be able to live without it.
Yeah.
To be able to be successful in what they do at the level that they do.
Yeah, it's got to be a deal where it's like, if I'm
not okay
on the water, then my life is not right. You know, like if I'm not chasing a bass, I'm not content with my life.
Right. Yeah.
Like to do it at the level Ben Milliken does, right? To do it at the level that Brandon Pauling does.
And Milliken didn't come from money.
No.
Like when I met him too when. Like you called me one night.
So he broke down outside of Pittsburgh, which is where Heath lives, up around Mount Pleasant. Broke down the middle of the night, driving from one lake to another, and getting no sleep, going fish next day.
Driving from Nebraska, and they were headed back to Nebraska.
They broke down, and he called me because I was one of the only guys I think I was the only guy he knew in Northeast Texas. Yeah. So he called me, and I said, "Well, dude, I'm like 2 hours from you, but I got a guy."
It's like 11:30 at night.
Yeah, I was like, "I got a guy," and so I called Heath, and Heath went. That's when you met him.
I went, and like they're in this Ford pickup that I wouldn't have trusted to go to the store in. Pulling a trailer and a boat that I wouldn't have pulled.
There's an old
from
Stratus,
here. Yeah.
old Stratus boat.
Like,
yeah.
And if
Had
you
a Prestige Worldwide sticker on the side.
Like if you'll go way back to his very first videos, like there's some videos of those vehicles.
Yeah.
And like he was constantly having to work on them.
Yep.
Like I had to pull start that truck to get it going because they did something and burned up the starter.
Yeah.
But he could dump the clutch and I could pull start him. So I went and pulled him with my state truck and got him cranked up. And then he said, well, as long as we don't turn it off until we get to Nebraska, we're good. And they took off. And like I said, it was.
Well, the most epic thing he's done is the Ivy deal, right? Introducing Ivy's new exposure to the world. Think about what he was doing. That ice storm that shut the entire state of Texas down. He drove from Nebraska to Texas while that was going on and found a fishery that wasn't frozen and went fishing. It stumbled into
Giant.
the May. Yeah. Now I will tell you this. He gets help. He used to get help from me when he fished up here. So did all the Googans. Like the Googans used to do like an East Texas tour there for 2 or 3 years in a row. Well, I basically sent them an itinerary. Go to this lake, fish this area, throw these bait. And they get help like that. Like, he's never come out and said it, but I bet you, I have no way of knowing this for fact, so this is just my guess, for the record. They're kind of Sue happy over there. I would be willing to bet you money that somebody told him about it. Somebody clued him in on it. He didn't just happen, if you know where OHIV is, he didn't just happen to go, you know where I want to go?
Right there.
3 hours from anything,
Let me just
no
check this
Wi-Fi, no phone signal, in the middle of an ice storm. Let's go there. No, that's not how that happened. Somebody,
No food.
Somebody told him it was going down, and so he was like, I got to get there. But he was still like, I got to get there. Damn the weather. We're going to be the only ones out there. We're doing it.
Concho River.
That says a lot. That says a
It's one
lot.
of the most overfished fucking places out there.
Now,
Isn't it booked like 2.5 years?
But there's an argument, and I still believe that this lake is the greatest of all time.
well, yeah, it's
If you
Ivy's
don't
got a
look
lot
at
of
the
catching up to do. Ivy's got a lot of catching up
Well, for sure.
historically. Over the last few years, I mean, Ivy's done it. I mean, it's
As far as the 13
It's,
pounders go.
it's
the
LeBron
best lake.
and it's LeBron and Michael.
Here's the other thing about Ivy. They're doing that. Almost all of those 13-pound fish, almost all those 10-pound fish that are coming out of Ivy are coming one way. Right? Now, there are some getting caught up shallow now on Ivy, 10-pounders, but not 13s. Right?
Not
So,
16s.
so all the 13
Not
pluses are
16.
coming one way, and nobody, I don't think, maybe not even the people that are doing it, grasp the amount of man hours that are going into that.
Right.
When you calculate everybody that's out there trolling around looking at the screen and not catching anything.
Well, you look at that Josh Jones
I
dude.
spent
He
3 days
spends
out there.
months
Not a
out
fish.
Think
there
about
at a
this,
time,
think about this.
and he might catch 113.
Bass Champs goes there and has 250 teams, 300 teams, whatever they have, right? Whatever they have. They don't have 15, they don't have 10 people with 20-pound bags. They don't. If you could weigh slot fish on this lake, do you know how many 20-pound bags we put weight in a 300 boat event?
Yeah, shit. Yeah,
80,
Yeah. Thousands of pounds.
75? You would literally have well over 50 20-pound bags this time of year weighed in on this lake if you had no slot limit, or you could weigh your slot.
for sure.
So when you want to talk about which lake is the greatest, if you want to go look for one bite, your best chance is to go to OH Ivy in January, February, and look at a live scope all day. No doubt, it is. That's your best chance at a one teenage class bite. But if you want to talk about which lake can I go to and catch the biggest fish consistently, it's still the king, baby.
Yeah.
This is still the king. There's so many 5 to 9 pound bass in this lake. They just know where like it.
And it just looks fishy. I mean, why would you
But
not?
it does.
Oh, hell yeah. Until your trolling, until your lower unit says no.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you need to get your Lake Fork Gap Pro lanes.